From day one, the release of the mass murderer who ended 189 American lives, 38 of them from New Jersey, over the skies of Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988 was a moral outrage. And the circumstances surrounding that infuriating decision were fishy. The more we learn about the release in recent days, the more it makes the stomach turn. A terrorist who doctors had said had 3 months to live when he was freed on compassionate grounds is now living the high life back in Libya a full 10 months later. He's poised to profit from his murderous ways by writing a book, and he could be around to enjoy his wealth and freedom for another decade or more. We now know that the Libyan government sought out and paid doctors that gave them the grimmest medical prognosis. That alone should put this terrorist back behind bars for the rest of his earthly days. But what has also emerged is the involvement of corporate interests that potentially fueled this injustice. Specifically, various reports suggest that BP applied pressure to have al-Megrahi released in order to finalize and expedite a $900 million oil drilling deal with Libya. BP itself even acknowledges that it did, in fact, lobby for a prisoner transfer agreement with Libya to facilitate its drilling deal. Although predictably they claim that no specific prisoner was discussed, which is at the same time hard to believe and doesn't exactly absolve them of responsibility. Make no mistake, the reports about BP's involvement in freeing this killer are more than just a side note. They add a potentially important piece to this case. If BP is found to have helped free this mass murderer, that would further delegitimize the Scottish court's decision to grant him compassionate release. If BP is found to have gained access to Libyan oil reserves by using a mass murderer as a bargaining chip, then make no mistake, any money it makes off of that oil is blood money, pure and simple. Americans have seen the evidence in the Deepwater Horizon disaster, and it seems to show that BP is capable of putting profits ahead of people. They ignored safety precautions and lowballed the estimates of oil spilling in the Gulf. If that's how they operate, then it is within the realm of possibility that they put profits ahead of justice in murder of 270 innocent people. Yesterday, the four of us called on the State Department to fully investigate BP's involvement in the release of al-Megrahi, which would complete our knowledge of what happened and why it happened. Today, we are calling on BP to show us that they are committed to international justice and that they reject terrorism by suspending all activities related to their planned drilling off the coast of Libya until the full information about their potential involvement in the al-Megrahi case is known. Not only would this be a show of good faith, but BP itself could ensure that the suspension of activities would be quick by immediately releasing all information and documentation related to its involvement in prisoner transfers, and by readily agreeing to testify at the hearings that we intend to have, which I know my colleague Senator Lautenberg has called for. At the end of the day, the unwanted release of a convicted terrorist like al-Megrahi is a detriment to our nation in a number of ways. It forces the families of 189 murdered Americans to live through a real-life sequel to the real-life horror story they endured in 1988. It undercuts the idea of fundamental justice that we should nurture in the international community, and it threatens our national security by encouraging would-be terrorists. If they have watched this series of events unfold, they would realize that, yes, it is possibly to literally get away with murder. We think that fully understanding any potential corporate involvement in an injustice like this is important to the efforts to send al-Megrahi back to prison. And we think that if BP knowingly helped free this murderer, that any profits it takes from extracting Libyan oil should be considered blood money. We hope that BP agrees that it will suspend its activities in Libya, that will fully comply with our call for full information, and we hope that our State Department presses this case incredibly hard. It is important to send a message internationally